Sportin Wales podcast.
Supported by DragonBet.
Your go-to for Welsh sports news and views.
Hello and welcome to a new week and a new episode of the Sportin Wales podcast with me, Geraint Hardy. This is where we review and preview the Sportin Wales week with the help of special guests and our sponsor, DragonBet. Sportin Wales is co-founded by Gareth Anscombe and Alice Cuthbert, and you can find our Sportin Wales magazine in various sports clubs, gyms and lots of other places right across Wales and online. Now, every week we are joined by two guests in the studio, and we've got a double trouble today. We've got the boss back, Gareth Anscombe, and actually, he's the trouble. It's all you. It's Mr. Tom Shanklin as well. Tom, welcome to you first. How are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, very good. Pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you. Are you going to behave today?
I'll try. I'll try my best. It's being videoed, which is a little bit different to normal. So I'll try and behave as best I can.
Gareth, every time I think of Tom, right, I think of, I don't know if it's true, the story about you putting a sheep in Dwayne Peel's room in the Vale Hotel. Is that true?
That's not me. That wasn't me.
No?
That was Dwayne Peel putting a sheep. No, Mark Jones,
right,
who used to be a farmer from Builth, Wales, actually can handle sheep really well. Surprised me how well he can sort of snap the legs together, put it on his shoulder and carry it.
Yeah.
Put it in Dwayne Peel's room.
So it wasn't you?
No, it wasn't me. I wouldn't know what to do with a sheep.
Yeah.
Was that the Vale?
No, it was in the World Cup in 2007 in Nantes. Sounds a bit weird, that. I wouldn't know what to do with shit. No,
but you know, I've been spreading rumours about you, so I've done you a disservice there. So to clarify, it wasn't Tom Shanklin with the sheep in the Vale Hotel.
Mark Jones loves them.
Yeah, that surprises me. Gat, how's your week been, mate? All right?
Yeah, good. Went along to the Cardiff Quins game, which was, a great atmosphere. Obviously not the result they would have wanted, but and a bit of training, a bit of family time, so...
I saw you at the camera went on you on the Cardiff Dragons game on Boxing Day, and you were trying to hide your pint. It was amazing. Yeah. It was amazing. There was a load of former players there and current players, and he was right in the middle, and he had a pint, and then as soon as he saw he was on TV, he started to cover it like this, and I was going, Shoshan, Shoshan.
Yeah, I had a few ticks.
Non-alcoholic.
A few ticks during the game to let me know we were on the screen, but no, it's been good getting down there actually and supporting a few old mates playing and a few of the old Cardiff boys getting together and catching up. It's been good.
Yes, no, it's important to catch up, isn't it? But you also made some headlines last week from the pod with what you shared with us. Anybody mentioned that to you in the week, or has it been quite quiet?
Oh, getting tagged in different stories, but I suppose some publications always sort of rerun stuff, don't they? So, we expect it a little bit, but I'm just glad that story's out now and we can all sort of move on and focus on the next, the next thing really.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, it's great to have you both with us today. DragonBet's very own James Lovell will join us shortly to preview the week ahead. But first, let's look back at the week that we've just had. Lots of headlines as well, really. So we'll address some of them first. Sadly for the Welsh women's football team, head coach Gemma Granger stepped down and she's moved to be the manager of former World Cup winners and European champions Norway. The Ospreys, we'll get onto this, have admitted that they are looking at options of moving away from playing home games at Swansea.com Stadium. Andy Farrell's been named the head coach of the Lions tour to Australia, and Wales' injury worries continue ahead of Warren Gatland's Six Nations squad announcement this week, 16th of Jan. That's going to be interesting. And also the British League rumours, they keep floating about, so we'll address that as well. But first, Tom, let's come to you. I was listening to you New Year's Day. You were not happy that match was happening in the Brewery Field. So the idea of the Ospreys leaving Swansea.com, is that a good idea? I think, Gates is the main reason behind this. Let me just give you this stat to start. In 2012 to 2013, average gate at the Ospreys was 10,661. 10 years on, 2022-23, average gate 5,464. And Perpignan's game on Friday night, 4,500 turned up. So, Tom, what do you think? Is a move something they have to do?
Yeah, I think so. I think they probably should have done it a few years earlier, maybe 5 or 6 years earlier, because the attendances have slowly been going down. I mean, the Brewery Field was great atmosphere. Now, I know I was a little bit probably harsh on the field. Nothing to do with Bridgend's fault, by the way, but I was maybe slightly hungover from New Year's Eve. But previously, I'd watched Harlequins in Gloucester, and that was played at Twickenham, and it was massive, and it was full, and a proper pyrotechnic show. It was a great occasion. Then you had sort of Edinburgh and Glasgow in Murrayfield, another great occasion. Professional rugby has moved on a little bit from playing on those pitches, but anyway, that's done and dusted. There's a lot of support out there for Bridgend Rugby Club, which I totally get, but atmosphere is what you want, and I cover a lot of the Ospreys games in the Liberty Liberty.com, the Swansea.com stadium. And that's something you lack. And you go to Cardiff then, or you go to Rodney Parade, and it's full of atmosphere. It's what people want. It's what players want. You'd rather have a stadium that is, 4,000, 5,000 full than going to Swansea.com where the sound is lost. So I think it's massive. I think it's great. It's quite hard though. I think where the location is going to be. Do they redevelop the Knoll? Do they go to St Helens? Transport in and out is going to be an issue as well. But what I would say about the Brewery Field was the crowd absolutely loved it. And that's what's been missing from the Ospreys.
Yeah, their new chief executive, Lance Bradley, said talks have happened. So, it's not really a debate of if it's a good idea to go away, do you know what I mean? But for players, Tom's touched on it there, 8,000 Brewer Field, that was an amazing atmosphere. The players would have thrived on that, probably got them through the conditions, to be honest with you. If it had been a kind of 3,000 people there, it wouldn't have been enough. But the infrastructure's got to be there, right? They can't just move in the hope of fans turning up and leaving the players with dodgy pitches. Yeah,
absolutely. I think... we spoke last week about the fact that rugby is still a product, it's an entertainment game. And I think when, Shanks refers to the standard of the pitch, then it does affect the standard of the game. And ultimately, the game is, about entertainment still. And I think people have to remember that as well. But without doubt, they need to leave, Swansea.com stadium. I think we can all see that. Even when I was playing there last couple of years, we just struggled to get any atmosphere there. And then anything always comes from the group. And it is tough, and you could see at least the players enjoyed the atmosphere. It does make a massive difference, like Shanks said. And yeah, look, they've talked about St Helens. I know there was whispers of that when I was there. It's a great spot, but it needs a lot of work. And with budgets being so tight, where is that money going to come from? I suppose that'll be their biggest question. But I think the sooner they can leave Swansea.com stadium, I think the better for the Ospreys, because players want to be playing in games with a bit of atmosphere. I think, like Shanks touched on, it makes it so much better for everyone involved. And, I was down in the Cardiff game the weekend, and again, the result didn't go their way, but at least the crowd enjoyed the atmosphere. I think everyone talked about that afterwards, and it leaves people wanting to come back for more. And when the game's struggling to get people back in, we really need to think about that, I think, as administrators, for sure.
Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, a kind of an example, if you like, of a team that's kind of transformed their gates is Wrexham in the football. Fantastic story, obviously, and a lot of kind of investment there. But they had a record on the weekend, the biggest crowd since 1980, 12,478, and only 1,000 of them away fans. So that's what it can be done, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, is Ryan Reynolds a fan of the Ospreys?
Tell you what, if we sort out you and him on an all-dayer, by the end of the day, I reckon you can convince
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? You had like some sort of celebrity owners come in and take the Ospreys and just transform them into what we've seen with Wrexham.
Yeah,
incredible.
I think you can see that. That just doesn't happen overnight, though. No. Like they've put a lot of work. They took a risk, and with the series, I think everyone knows that's been a massive success. The work on social media, TikTok, it's just where the game has to go, and the regions need to look at them as a bit of an inspiration, I think, because if they can channel everything off the field and get the results, people will come. Cardiff have seen that. Yeah. People will come, but they need a bit of convincing at times.
Would you and Alex buy him? Take it over?
We'll see how this podcast goes.
Got off money.
Let's move on from that to Lions appointment. Andy Farrell, happy with that?
Yeah, brilliant. Really good. I think he's the natural fit. It's probably more of a case of would he take it or wouldn't he?
Yeah.
I'm glad he has, because you look at Warren Gatland when he had the Lions, you just knew how they were going to play. They were going to play similar to how he wanted to play. Pretty pragmatic, heavily based on defence, heavily based on gain line, and a lot of sort of pragmatic carries. But you look at Andy Farrell now and how Ireland play. Ireland and France have sort of set the tone for how rugby should be played in the Northern Hemisphere. And he's going to do that. That's what he's going to bring to the party of being Lions coach. That's going to be the blueprint. And that's what we want to see, because they play attractive rugby. I remember watching the Lions, and I know it was during COVID, and I know there wasn't any supporters there, but it wasn't the greatest games. They weren't the greatest games. They became a little bit stale. It was only until sort of Finn Russell came on in the last test, and everyone went, whoa, all of a sudden we're getting some running rugby. So I'm delighted that Andy Farrell has taken charge of the Lions. I think it's the best possible move.
Yeah, it's exciting, that's for sure. When does that come on a player's radar? Because he doesn't start the job till the end of this year, December. So when would the players be thinking about it now? Is there a plan in their head? Right, I've got to play well this season, and then I'm in place for Lions.
Well, you always want to play well, but I think, next year's Six Nations is really where he's going to be. He'll be full time. Then he'll be at all the games. The next Six Nations is going to be the most important. Potentially at the end of the season, the November international start playing the seed boys, playing well. They put their hands up at the Six Nations next year. The teams that do well will no doubt get the most amount of players into that side.
Yeah. How many Welsh players currently, Shanks? Starting 15.
Put me on a spot here. I'll have to go through the whole team.
Zamet,
yeah,
he's in it.
Of course he'd be in there.
Yeah.
There'd be a few that'd be definites in there, I think. We might have a couple of scrum halves in there. Gareth Davies, Thomas Williams doing really well. Who else would be in there? Come on, Gareth.
Is Jack?
Yeah, Jack would be in there. There would be there'd probably be 8 or 9, I'd imagine.
Do you think it matters or be a big indication of what assistance Farrell takes with him? Because clearly, I think in the last Lions tour, a couple of the assistants, then suddenly there's a bit of a flow to, well, who do they have? And it has a knock-on effect, doesn't it? So I wonder
maybe.
Who will Farrell go with?
He'd have to go with someone along the same philosophy. So I don't know whether Gregor Townsend might be in the mix as a coach. But
do you think he tactically tries to bring in another coach or two to understand a bit about the other country heading into the another World Cup? Do you think he's tactical like that at all?
Or does he just stick with what he knows and what he trusts?
You've seen enough of Australia, really. I think we don't need to know too much about them.
They're going to totally change though, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're going to be totally different. But I don't know if he needs anyone like a spy in the camp to come in and feed him more information. I think maybe Mason Grady. I think he needs to start for Wales.
Yeah.
He could be one that will get on the tour. Josh Adams. There's quite a few. There is quite a few. Yeah.
It is tough because we're talking about now, but it's still so far away in terms of a rugby, and again, I think a year's a long time and it's just going to come down, I think, if someone has a bolter in this next Six Nations.
Peak at the right time.
Yeah, it really is. You look at the last Lions tours, there's a couple of players that you would never have thought had a great Six Nations. Their team goes well, gets a few wins, and suddenly a couple of, put their hands up and they jump on the plane. So there's still a lot of water to go under the bridge yet, I think.
If I was Owen Farrell, I'd be texting Dad. Just remember about me, Dad. Just remember about me. Okay, let's park that there then for the Lions. Let's turn our attention to what's happened this weekend. It's just been European rugby. Everyone loves it, right? It's the best. Let's turn our attention to Cardiff. I know you were down there, Gar. Were you down there, Shanks? Yeah. So Cardiff 15, Quins 54. Great occasion. Amazing that the Arms Park was full once again. But I think just the Quins too strong, Shanks?
Yeah, I think so. Cardiff couldn't deal with the power that Quins had. Their 8, 9, 10, 12 combo is brilliant at Quins. Yeah. Like every team would want that. Don Brandt, Danny Kerr, Marcus Smith, Andre Esterhazen. They're brilliant. They're brilliant players. And often you get teams where you only have to stop 1 or 2 players. You stop them, you stop the whole team. But when you've got 4 class players like that, it's really difficult. Good start by Cardiff, and they were in the game for sort of the first half, really. 20, 30 minutes.
It was that score just before half time, wasn't it?
It was, and Thomas Young looked really good coming back. But I expected a little bit more. And I know expectations shouldn't be too high at the moment with where Welsh rugby is, where budgets are, and it's difficult to compete. What was great was the atmosphere. It was a sellout stadium. It was amazing. It's brilliant having away support, because that's something we lack in the URC, is travelling support, because your teams are coming from Ireland, South Africa, Italy, Scotland, and you don't get that many. But Quins felt like a little bit of a derby, even though it's like 3 hours down the motorway. So it was a pretty decent first half, but they just fell off the radar in the second half, and you could see the quality coming through from Quins.
But so much to learn, because it's a really young squad, Cardiff, isn't it, Gar? So they can learn lots of lessons there, surely.
Yeah, absolutely, and even playing in those games does a lot for your career. But as long as you're competitive, I think the times you get blown out, people saying experience, I don't necessarily agree with that. But when they compete and they get to experience it at home and what it takes to play at that next level, then it's a great experience for them. But I wonder now, heading into this backstage of the season, small Welsh squads, they've had a couple of big games now, and it just looked like Shanks said, particularly the second half, they just ran out of steam. And I wonder, with a couple of young guys having to play at that next level for a little bit longer, 10 games in a row, 12 games in a row, just some sore bodies start running out of steam a little bit, and when they don't have the strength, the depth that they used to have, or even the numbers in the squad, I just wonder, will this affect, the next few games? And it looked like that second half, they were a totally different side, Cardiff. They just really physically struggled, particularly the back end of the game.
Bath was good. The Bath game was good because even though Cardiff lost, everyone came away from that game thinking, I want to watch Cardiff again. I'm coming next week. I'm coming the week after. After Quins, it was a little bit deflated, really, because I don't think Cardiff offered enough in attack. Looked a little bit lost in attack.
It didn't really seem like they had much ball, to be honest. Even their tries, look at their tries in the first half. Where have they come from halfway?
Yeah.
So it's not like they built a load of pressure, I didn't feel, working their way up the field. It was a great try. Well, Young scored 2, didn't he? But the one where they've gone back on the short side and the cross kick, it was, well-worked try. But again, it's come from halfway. It's well finished off. But it wasn't like they had to stay in periods of pressure to... It seemed that they were relieving a lot of pressure from their half. They'd get up to around halfway and suddenly a silly penalty, they're back towards the post, and every time the Quins got into their 22, they didn't really seem like they could stop them, did they?
What I would say is I think we still need to find a way to involve Mason Grady a little bit more.
Yeah.
He's playing on the wing at the moment and he's playing really well, but he's too good for the wing. It's a bit like George North. You want him in the game as much as possible. And I still think 13 would be his best position. And at some stage, they're going to have to make that transition from wing into centre with him.
I think interesting with that, though, guys, I've had this discussion before with other people. Playing on the wing, you can actually include guys on the ball a little bit easier sometimes in 13, particularly if they're coming from a blind side. And they follow their 10s and you can get them running off your hip quite easily sometimes.
Is that up to him on the pitch to do it, or is that a set play every time?
Well,
or can he just say, I'm going to get busy and get involved?
Yeah, within periods of the field, and depending on how the coaches want to play, there's a bit of both. And Mason's still very young. I think people have to remember that. He's a great athlete, still learning the game though, and maybe that's why he's bouncing between 13 and wing, because 13 is the hardest place to defend in a rugby field. Every back move is usually designed to try and isolate a 13 or 12. Usually a lot of times it's a centre, the outside centre. So it gives him a bit of a chance to float, but I agree with Shanks. He just didn't get on the ball enough in the weekend, and unfortunately the game just didn't seem to go his way. They managed to get to Harry Millard on the other wing a lot, so they transferred it that way. But frustratingly, when you've got an athlete like that, the likes of George North, you need them touching the ball as many times as possible.
So you said there, Gareth, right? Young bodies kind of getting tired. To qualify now, they need to go to Racing and they need to win.
Right.
That is a tough task, isn't it? Top 4 go through. We know that, and they can do it, which is great that they're still in the mix right at the end. But can they do it, Shanks? What do they need to do to be able to do that?
They can do it, obviously, because it's sport and everyone's got a chance, but there are a lot easier places to go to. Racing haven't been great in European rugby. They're doing well in top 14, but they've had some real bad results recently. Bath, they lost. They had quite a good lead.
They were in that game. Yeah. They probably should have beaten Bath, I think. I think they're probably the better side, really. It was close, but Bath were pretty lucky to hold on at the end there. A few calls maybe went against Racing, but the fact that Racing need to win to get an outside chance to stay in is that they're going to be pretty hungry, you'd imagine. I wouldn't be surprised if Cardiff, will they send their top side?
They've got to, surely. From a fan point of view,
I hope they
you've
do.
got a chance.
I always
to
hope
get
they do, because it's European rugby, and you don't want to see teams put second sort of string teams out. We've seen that before.
Well, they do have time off after this game, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is a break, so that will help them.
Yeah, I hope they do. I hope they go full strength, because it's good experience as well for players. And the expectation isn't too high. They're not going there with all the pressure on their backs thinking, right, you've got to win. It's a bit of a case of, right, let's just go out there. Let's try and keep the brand that we're playing well. Let's try and keep the tempo up. Let's try and get into the wider channels. I think Ben Thomas at 12, even though there are a few defensive issues with him, I think what he offers in attack is greater than probably what we saw with Ray Lilo and Willis Halaholo, just in terms of organisation and phase play attack, of getting players in the right position. Because you can't always attack off first phase. If you break the line off first phase, that's golden. You score first phase, golden. But often it takes 3, 4, 5 phases.
Yeah. Okay, let's hope they go for it. I mean, that would upset me if they went with a weakened team, to be honest, because they've got a chance of getting through to the quarterfinals.
They've got to keep momentum going as well, because there is a good buzz at the moment.
Yeah, really good.
It was difficult New Year's Day, but the past results from Cardiff have been pretty good, and there's been a lot of good press. Even though they haven't been winning that much, they've been playing a good brand of rugby, which people want to see. Yeah,
there's definitely a buzz in the capital about them, hence the crowds, which is great. Let's move on to Ospreys 25, Perpignan 3. I've written down here, was that 5, was it? What was the final score there?
I think
All
so.
right, now.
Yeah.
This is yours. I think.
Yeah, sorry, I'm the title there.
I
But
think
anyway,
that's
Ospreys took the win there. Who impressed you? Yeston Hopkins, Shanks?
Yeah, he's good. Looks quick, looks sharp.
He's rapid.
Yeah, Keelan Giles as well. Finished his try really well. Dan Edwards at 10. Luke Davis at 9. You know, this is what we're seeing now, which is really good. You know, because of what's happening with Welsh rugby, there's a clear pathway now. Or it's a lot clearer for talent to come through. So people from academies, players from academies, are actually getting game time now, which we haven't really previously seen. So there is talent coming through, which we were slightly worried about. Well, I was slightly worried about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Now, you know, hopefully we won't lose as many players across the bridge because they'll see that actually there's a clear pathway in which we can develop into players and get into the first team. So I thought it was a very good win for the Ospreys. What's impressed me about the Ospreys, I think this season more, is they're playing a lot more. You know, they went through a large period in that game where they just kept ball, multi-phase attack. You know, they got repelled back, they kept going. Eventually, they got a penalty, kicked a touch, and they scored a try from that. So they are playing more. They're playing a better brand of rugby and a more exciting brand of rugby. And they've got some good, exciting players.
Young players as well.
Yeah, that are coming through as well. So I think they're going to finish the top team in the URC this year.
From Wales, you mean, yeah?
Yeah, from Wales, because they've got enough players, they've got good players, they've got quality players, and they're playing a bit more now as well. Which is what you want to see.
They do have a big injury list now, don't they? So
They do. I was going to say that, you know, because
that's going to be tough as well. With these smaller squads, they've got a lot out, and then what are they going to take to South Africa on top of that?
Dewi Lake got injured is
Well, Dewi
worry.
Lake played flanker, didn't he? Because Tips wasn't available, Jack Morgan wasn't available, and all the others they've got there as well, to be fair to them. But, you know, let's move on to Wales slowly with that then. They've got 20 injuries that they've notified of players that kind of would be in consideration for selection for the Six Nations. How much does that concern you, Shanks?
Yeah, it is a concern, but there's always injuries. You know, every Six Nations you talk about injuries. The worst thing for Wales is there's not a massive pool to choose from players. You know, there's 4 teams basically. There's 2 in Scotland, which is even harder for them. So it is a worry. I'm worried at 10. I'm worried at 15. You know, these are the positions where players are injured or have retired from the game, and it's just being able to replace them. So there is a little bit of worry about, you know, who's going to be our next 10, who's going to be able to take us through the Six Nations, who we're going to rely on at 15. There'll be players playing out of position, I'm sure, but I hope the momentum's there from the World Cup, because it was a great tournament for Wales. I thought we overachieved. There was good buzz. We played some really good rugby in the latter stages. So, you know, I look at the centres, and I think Nick Tompkins and George North are probably the 2 centres that will partner for the Six Nations. You know, sort of Nick Tompkins came from nowhere again, and came back in and played really well, and looks like was our best attacking threat, I thought, in the World Cup. Most attacks came through him, through 12, putting players through holes, putting it behind, creating. So that is a bit of worry. Back row as well. Faletau, is he going to be fit? Is he not? Who's going to play 6?
Jack Morgan, Dewi Lake, Plumtree.
Yep.
He's another one, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? So would Gats chat to the players and see how fit are you? How much communication will he have between now and Tuesday this week? We're recording this on a Monday. So tomorrow the squad's been announced.
It wouldn't be Gats, but the physios, the medical team are always checking in at the regions with their medical teams, and they're talking. So they'll know exactly where everyone is, and they'll get communicated to Gats and the coaching staff. And then I suppose ultimately they'll be having their selection meeting today, and they'll be making the call. Can we carry 1 or 2 guys to get them right, you know, later in the 3rd stage of the competition? The fact that it's at home in the sense of they can carry a few more players. It's not like the World Cup where you got a smaller squad and you're in a plane. So they can afford to have a bigger squad, knowing they can rehab guys and just have them in. But yeah, there's a few recent injuries I think that aren't great. Johnny Williams with his tackle on the weekend, he got a red card.
Yeah. You get banned a long time for that.
He's going to get a good.
It was a nasty one, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was. It was an accident though.
Wasn't malicious.
It was an really ugly one, but it was really accidental. But
you can't tackle like that.
That's going to be 4 weeks.
Right now, who would be your 10 for Wales? Fitness-wise, I'm not sure. I don't think Callum Sheedy's fit. So it'd be
Costello was HIA, wasn't it?
Costello, he'll be fit, or Johan Lloyd, I think, are the
When you look at what Gatlin picked in the World Cup, you know,
He's got to answer first.
I know. Costello.
What do you think?
Well, Bigger's gone. You know, you're injured at the moment, so Costello's surely he's going to be 10, isn't he?
He's not played much. That's the only issue. Like he was meant to play
he'll be
against the
given the
Dragons.
first chance, I think.
Yeah, he played against the Dragons. Missed a couple of kicks towards the end. That's probably a bit of a worry for me. Is goal kicking. You know, because we relied so heavily on likes of yourself, Dan Bigger, Lee Halfpenny, real high percentage kickers, and big games come down to that.
Yeah,
really. So,
well, he missed a kick, didn't he? What game was it? Quite a simple one against Dragons.
Dragons, yeah.
Yeah, and it's them
A couple
pressure
towards the end.
moments, isn't it? That you know that. But you know, hopefully he'll learn from it and kind of.
Johan Lloyd's been playing
very well
every week, and he gets him out of a lot of trouble. He's probably been the Scarlets' best player and a team that's really been struggling.
Would you have? Would you have him?
It depends how much rugby Sam Costello can play between now and 3rd of Feb, and how fit he is, because he's not played much.
Here's your question, Gary. You know, in training camp, you know, if Gatlin's saying, okay, Costello hasn't played that much, and he says, I agree with Shanks, right? How intense will it be in the training camp to get him up to speed if they need to?
They've always actually been really confident in the level of training to get guys up to game fitness. So there's been lots of question marks in the past before about should, you know, we train up until Wednesday and release guys back to the regions to get game time. And I think the majority of the time they've felt that you can get what you need to in camp and they can top you up. And Gats, particularly in the fellow weeks of Six Nations, really does make it pretty uncomfortable in camp. So I'm pretty sure the staff there will back themselves to give anyone a chance to get fit and back themselves with the intensity of training, that they'll be able to give Sam enough time to get ready. But it'll come down to obviously Sam and the medical team on that.
Depends how brave or, I don't know, how risky Wales want to play, because Owen Williams has been playing pretty well.
Yeah.
He's a little bit different to the likes of Johan Lloyd, you know, probably a little bit more pragmatic in his approach, and it's how risky Wales want to play. I would play Johan Lloyd. I'd give him a shot at 10 and say, look, you've got it. Here's your chance. You've wanted it. Go out there and try and take it. And he'll play differently to what we've seen before.
Do you think Shanks? You think that's his best position?
I think he can play anywhere. That's the problem. It's his position he wants to play.
Yeah.
I'd probably play him. I'd rather him at 10 than 15.
There you go. Okay, well, let's go back to this weekend's action.
Okay.
Plymouth 38, Scarlets 17. They just can't get a break. They can't get any momentum going, Scarlets, at the moment, can they? Josh McLeod left the pitch with what seems like a long-term injury. He's been so unlucky, isn't he? You know, if you look back at the years with long-term injuries. As I said, Sam Costello, just the HIA we're led to believe. What's the next step, Shanks, for Scarlets? Because they've got a lot of home games towards the end of the season in the URC.
Yeah.
They do like to play expansive rugby. If the weather gets better, is that kind of a positive they can try and aim towards to get a run of games there that they can win?
Yeah, like last season, it was a poor first block for Scarlets. Then come the new year, they got a lot of momentum and got a lot of confidence and some good wins. I think the fixture list has been cruel to them at the start of this season. 2 away games in the URC in South Africa. No team wants to start with that. Then they've got Leinster away as well. They have had a couple of poor games, mind. You think of the Lions, they should have won that. It was Steph Evans, the kick charge down right at the end. That was a game they should have won. Black Lion as well.
Yeah.
You know, that was tough. So it is hard for them. You know, they've gone out to Claremont. You know, there was no chance really they were going to, in the form they're in. If you go out to a team like that, even though they're sort of mid-table in the top 14, there's still some big power coming from that Claremont team, and you've got to go there full of confidence. And at the moment, they're desperate for a win to try and get some momentum going.
It's an intimidating place to go as well over in Claremont. They pack that place out every week, and people are queuing up outdoors. So you doubt. I wonder if they ever actually, like you said, went over there actually thinking they had a chance, and the game was done after 40, 50 minutes. I think they're down 31-3 after 15. They kept plugging away and had 2 late scores, which sort of probably flattened them a little bit with the scoreline. But I think this break can't come soon enough for the Scarlets. I think they just need to get away. just refresh and relax a little bit and hopefully get some of these injuries back. But they're certainly struggling up front, I think, the Scarlets. Unfortunately, I don't know why it is, but up front particularly, they just can, beaten most weekends up front, and it's tough when you're going backwards. The likes of Yohan Lloyd and Johnny Williams, they got, you look at their back line, they've still got some strength there. But
Eddie James, that's good.
Yeah, when you're struggling up front in these collisions, like Cardiff showed in the weekend, it's going to take a couple of special efforts to get them going. So, yeah, it's been a tough start for the Scarlets, and you wonder, they just need a bit of a break, I think, and hopefully maybe attack the back end of the campaign.
There's some quality players in their team.
Yeah, when you look at the 15.
Yeah, they're just so low on confidence. So, it's properly killed them this season so far.
Well, let's see if the break helps them a bit. The Dragons, it's every time, isn't it? Zebra 20, Dragons 17. But no, to be fair to them, Shanks, though, I do think it's a game of two halves constantly with them. Do you know what I mean? And they did it against Zebra. They controlled that first half, I thought. I thought they were good. They were really good. And then second half, different team, completely different team.
Yeah, they had a good 12-point lead. Kai Evans looks really good with the boot. But look, Zebra are tough. They're a tough team. They're a lot better than they were last season. They didn't win a game last season. Yeah. So Richard Hodges going there as well seems to have helped with their defence, maybe with their culture as well. But you look at some of the players they've got, Pani, Gessie, some of the Lakata, I think in the pack as well. They've got some real good players, and they're a tough team now. You can't take them lightly at all. But they just had so much possession in that second half, and it just sort of shows you where the Dragons are at the moment. They can produce 40 minutes, but they can't produce an 80.
I think they're just lacking a little bit of experience somewhere along there. It just seems like they get themselves in games and they've just got this 10 or 15 minute period in them where they just collapse and they just hurt themselves. And
well, it was either side of
and it just they're not far away. But we've been saying this about the Dragons for 3 years, haven't we? And they're just something's not quite ticking along for them just yet.
I think they conceded like 16 points in 17 minutes.
Yeah.
The end of the first half and the start of the second half against Zebra. And that you can't do that, can you? Do you know what I mean? Can they beat the Sharks then? The Rodney Parade, they need to win it to get through. Can they do a job of them, Gav?
Yeah, the Sharks are really struggling.
Yeah.
I know I read John Plumtree's actually gone back home to New Zealand to see family. So whatever they're doing at the moment, it's not quite working. So I wonder, they might relax for the week, which might make them a difficult proposition. But the Dragons, I think, we know at home at Rodney Parade, I think their fans will get behind them. I'd still give them an outside chance to win that. I don't know if they're favourites, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got this one done.
The Sharks are a team that's massively underwhelming this season so far. You look at the quality they got and the quality that's come back, and they're still not winning. But you're right about Rodney Parade, and I know you take your hat off to the supporters there because they support them through and through. No matter what, they still turn up. They're still there. They're still shouting. They still create a great atmosphere. It's one of the best places to go and commentate on some of the games there. You've been. I've seen you there as well. It is great, isn't it? Yeah, even when there's losses, it's still good atmosphere there. Still love going there.
It's good fun as a player because it is extremely hostile in a fun way, So they'll chuck Etzebeth in the tiny away changing room, which is the size of the studio, So it's a hostile place from the start. So,
but it's a rugby ground. Yeah, people are creatures of habit. They grow up in rugby clubs.
It's got that feel, isn't it?
You used to go to a rugby club. You get to Rodney Parade, and it is a rugby club, and everything's geared towards rugby. So it's a great place. I love going there.
It's a 5:30 kickoff as well. When the floodlight's going to get dark, it can happen. That I think I'm going to back the Dragons for that. Just quickly on this British League, because it's not going away. Warburton's written about it in the Times. Martin Bayfield's been behind it. Darren Jones, the agent's behind it. David Moffat's been behind it. A lot of people are talking about it. Is it actually just a pipe dream, Tom? Can this actually happen? I know maybe it'd be a good idea to happen, but can it happen is the question.
I think we would like it to happen. I'm not sure the English Premiership want it to happen because they've lost 3 teams now. It's down to 10, and I think there's only positives to come from that, from losing 3 teams. It's a good brand. They seem in a strong position, you think, but then we don't really know the finances of every single club, and I think they're not that keen on letting people know finances.
No. So I wouldn't be surprised if I think if it was ever to happen, I don't know if they would let 4 Welsh regions. I think they'd say
maybe
have 3.
It's so messy, isn't it?
But what I will say about it is that if it's not a British league, I still think we need the Anglo-Welsh league back, but it to be a serious competition and not just a development competition, because there's a lot of history between the Welsh clubs and the English clubs. There's away support. You've got full stadiums. Now, I love the URC. I think it's great. We need the URC at the moment. But there is a certain issue with away support, and you don't get any, really, unless it's a derby. But when you start to play the English teams, all of a sudden you sort of dig up the old rivalries of years ago. And you get away support. You get fans wanting to travel from, I don't know, Gloucester or Leicester to come to Cardiff for the day. And it creates atmosphere. It fills your stadium. So whether it's the Anglo-Welsh or whether it's a British league, I want to see the English teams coming to Wales. It's
going to take time, though, isn't it, Gareth? Things like this don't happen overnight at all. They take years.
No,
really.
they don't. And I think a couple of years when this was always talked about, you can see why the English Premiership wouldn't want the Welsh teams, because the Prem was running well. But since COVID, they've lost 3 teams. They do seem a little bit vulnerable now. When you look at the Prem, it is a great competition, but it's only got 10 teams, and it feels like it's missing a little bit. So
there's always rumours about clubs there as well.
And also, it's got 10 teams, but look at Newcastle. It's almost like a championship team playing. So they're almost down to 9 now. So I wonder if there's ever a time to get the Welsh teams over there. I think it'd be a great opportunity to do it. Players would love for it to happen, without a doubt. Like Shanks said, they're having the support, and knowing away fans can only jump on a bus a couple of hours, and I think it'd be great for everyone. I do think the England Prem could actually do with having the Welsh teams. I do think we'd bring something to the competition.
It's just in what happens with Ireland, what happens with Scotland.
Yeah,
it's
not as simple as that.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
We're sort of leaving, our friends who we've been playing with in the URC and just saying, right, well, we'll sort ourselves out. But maybe that's the way
you look at
forward.
the URC though. It's only ever really favoured one country, and that's Ireland. So I think everyone's got to do what's best for them. And I think, without doubt, what's best for Welsh rugby would be to having a crack at getting involved in an Anglo-Welsh league. Would be fantastic. But we know there's just so much riding on it in terms of commercial partners, TV deals. There's so much big things at stake. You wonder, can it ever happen?
Yeah, who are the people as well to lead it, isn't it, and start the ball rolling and do it properly?
We're trying. We mention it all the time.
Yeah. What would you, Tom, just to throw this in, if you were advising a young player in Wales right now, what advice would you give them in terms of kind of what to do with their career? If you've got a talented player who maybe has got offers elsewhere, but he loves his local club, how would you advise them in terms of, would you tell them, right, you need to get a plan B in place straight away now and get some education going as well? Or would you say kind of you look to maximise your money? How would you kind of approach it with them in a private conversation?
There always has to be a plan B, because plan A might not work. Not everyone can be a professional sportsman. So you need to have something that you can fall back on. But stay in Wales at the moment, because you're going to get game time. You're going to get access to be able to play in the first team. And we've seen that because there's a lot of injuries, a lot of players leaving, which opens up spots for players. There's loads that have moved across to, Hartbury or Clifton, Bath, because they think that's where they're going to get more access. And possibly they might, but what we're seeing now is lots of youngsters coming through, lots of youngsters being able to play first team rugby, to play URC, to be able to play Champions Cup games, which is what you want. So have a plan B, but there is now a pathway, I think, in Wales.
At what point do you think in a player's career it becomes about getting that access to the first team and getting some spotlight, but then realistically, where can I learn, or where can I compete for trophies? Do you think there's a transition in your career, or do you think from the start it should always be just, where can I play first team rugby?
I think from where you can play first team rugby to sort of get that experience, to find your feet, and then you can start looking at where you want to move to a club and try and get silverware, because everyone wants to win something, don't they?
Yeah,
you don't want to be at a club. I mean, you tried to go to the Ospreys, didn't you, to win something? And how did that work out?
We won the Welsh Shield, so I don't know what you're on about.
Yeah, but you won Europe with Cardiff, didn't you? I think it's a bit like wanting to play for Wales. You want to play for your club first. You want to get your name out there. You want to find some momentum, find some form, and then you can start looking for sort of international honours. It's the same with players, youngsters coming through now.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, let's leave the rugby there, guys, and turn our attention to the weekend of football. And to do that, we've got James Level from our sponsor, DragonBet, on. James, how you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, guys. Back in work, so back in the coalface.
Back in Wales using Gran Canaria last week, Shanks enjoying himself.
Tax haven.
I did see James on the weekend. He was being wined and dined. He was in hospitality in Cardiff City. He had a tour of the tunnel. He went pitchside. He had a picture. It seems you're quite an important man, James.
Well, obviously not as important as Lord Shanks over there, but yeah, it's nice to get invited to a few of these things. I think people are recognising that we're a growing business and we represent Wales. So yeah, really nice. Either that or they're trying to blag a free bet off us, one of the two, but I'll take it either way.
Yeah, did you enjoy the game, Cardiff? They lost 3-0 to Leeds.
Yeah, always good for a Welsh bookie to see Cardiff lose, but being a Cardiff boy, that was painful, wasn't it? It could have been 6 or 7. I think they were thankful it was just 3-0 in the end.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if you saw the games, guys, but Cardiff City very poor to say the least. Shanks, when you kind of go up against a team that all the fans are really excited about, you want to be that team. Cardiff want to be a Leeds, right? And then they just don't turn up. As players, how disappointing is that?
What, as a player playing against someone really good?
Yeah,
and it is
because if you can't get up for that game, that's a concern, right?
Yeah, it is. But sometimes you're just beaten by better quality. But as long as there's effort there, I think most people can sort of come away with it. Even if your team loses, as long as you can see effort in there, you're not too disappointed. But if there is no effort, if you're winning the non sort of tactical stuff, like second touches of balls or races to the balls, then that's the most disappointing thing.
And Guy, so Cardiff City fans, the only positive, and James, you might agree with this as well, is, getting whipped by Leeds 3-0 means that, Cardiff is clear they need help, they need reinforcements. So on a board level, there's a clear message that, they have to put their hand in the pocket over the transfer window. Yeah,
we talked last week about them maybe looking to get a striker. Kiefer Moore was mentioned, so I think a lot of fans will still be hoping out for that. But they had 26,000 in the weekend. It's just, they would have, the fans would be a little bit disappointed with that result, and they definitely need some help for sure.
And James, from your perspective, you watched the whole game. Leeds, they're a team that could go up, right?
They are. It's just there's a gulf of class, isn't there? Those teams that have come down, Southampton, Leeds, and Leicester got beat, didn't they? The early kick-off curse struck. But those teams that have come down, it's just a gulf in class between them lot and the rest of the Championship teams, in my view.
That's a good point, because Coventry beat Leicester 3-1 just before that game. So Leeds would have been, I was down there, I was in the tunnel, and I could see all the Leeds coaches were watching that game, and they were jumping up and down, and in they went to the dressing room to tell the players, listen, they've dropped 3 points, we win here today, we're catching up with them. So that's a massive psychological thing, Gar. Do players listen to that, and does it affect the actual game, or do you kind of park that to one side?
Look, in rugby, in my experience, it probably doesn't happen as much, but they would have been talking throughout the week, no doubt, that what wins and what permutations does in the table. So it was a big result for them, and with Leicester going down with football, one win, one loss can swing things really quickly. So yeah, no doubt it gave Leeds a bit of extra motivation to go get the result, which they did pretty comfortably in the end.
Yeah, they were too good for Cardiff, unfortunately. Birmingham 2, Swansea 2, another result. Wrexham 2, AFC Wimbledon 0, Doncaster 0, Newport 1. Luke Williams, the new manager, was hoping to go 2 wins in 2, and then the Welshman Jordan James scored a 95th minute screamer. What a goal! I don't know if you've seen it, to kind of score for Birmingham City. But he's also rumoured overnight to have been moving from Birmingham to Atalanta in Italy. That's an interesting move for a youngster. New coach. With coaches, Shanks, Luke Williams was there before. Is that going to make it easier for him to settle into a team because he was there as an assistant before? Does that make it easier or harder for him because the players do know him?
Yeah, bit of both, I would say. Like, it'd be easy in terms of, like, he knows his surroundings, he knows the way the club's operated. But it's having that relationship with players, which is a difficult one, because some coaches can be a great sort of, attack coach or defense coach, but the step up then to being a head coach is totally different. You've got to have a different relationship with the players. You've got to be a little bit more cutthroat. You've got to be more withheld. And we've seen it with loads of different coaches. Some can do it, some can't. And it's that difficult barrier to sort of break and switch off from, because all of a sudden you could be putting your arm around a player because, you're sort of an attack coach. And then next minute you've got to separate yourself completely. You've got to drop boys. You've got to have difficult conversations. So it is very difficult.
I always find it amazing with football how quickly, when players transfer, how quickly they play for their teams. Because in rugby, you just wouldn't be able to do that. It takes so much time in rugby learning the different style of play. Whereas the great thing about football is it's it's a pretty simple game in the sense of it doesn't change too much. The formations change, and we've seen how the game's evolved to teams playing from the back and those sorts of things. But you look at Harry Kane, he signed for Bayern and was
22 goals already.
Yeah, flying from the get-go, but also played the day he arrived. Was he on the bench?
It was something,
Like, you would just never do that in rugby. So it is interesting seeing players quickly adapt to different teams.
Yeah. Losing at the death, how much does that hurt, Gar?
Yeah, it can be a killer blow sometimes. I think sometimes we read too much into the performance and the outcome, but depending on which side, if you've been dominating most of that game and you concede at the end, it does hurt, and it does drag your feet a little bit long during the week. And conversely, when you've been behind most of the game and you sneak that winner late on or get that try at the end to get the draw or the win, it does feel like a bit of an extra bonus sometimes. But yeah, it's a killer blow for them.
Did you see that Exeter game, Exeter Glasgow?
Yeah.
The number 8
Oh,
try,
my
kicked
God,
the ball.
yeah.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, crazy
Like,
finish.
absolutely crazy. Like, you'd only ever get picked up for a penalty of not binding like that if the result affected, if the try affected the result.
Yeah.
That's the only way. And by the letter of the law, it was a penalty. But I've never seen that. That was like the easiest thing to do ever. Kick the ball out and he kicks it straight to the Glasgow player. Yeah.
A gift.
Yeah.
Is what I would call it. Wrexham 2, Wimbledon 0. Stephen Fletcher and Mullin scoring. They're absolute weapons. James, is Mullin one that you bookies have got to kind of stay away from him and putting any odds of him? Because he just scores goals for fun.
We should do, but the traders have lost their head, I think. So for the Welsh Classico, I'm calling it, Newport against Wrexham next Saturday, they are going to go 10-1 Mullin to score first. So I don't know what they're doing. I've been on holiday. I would have put my foot down and said no, but they're putting it on the site. So that's a great bet. But listen, whatever Wrexham do, I think it's good for Welsh sport, isn't it? My missus is watching the documentary. Everyone's on board. I think it's great. But yeah, Tom Mullin does give me a few nightmares now and again.
We just had a question, James, about what it's like to lose in the last minute. What's it like as a bookie when something happens right at the death of the game, which just changes the outcome completely?
Shanks, bookies never lose. You should know this. Never lose. No, it's hard. As saying earlier, Man City scored in the 91st minute on Saturday, and some guy had an acca up for 10k, and loads of bets come in. And I was having a lovely time with the football, winning a few quid. I checked. I said, "How's it going, boys?" They said, "No, you don't want to know." So yeah, it's heartbreaking, but you just got to roll with it.
I've had the odd bet.
Yeah.
And sometimes something will happen right at the last game and you end up getting personal against the player that's either messed up or kicked the ball away or missed a tackle. So I had to stop because it was affecting me. I started hating players.
Controlling the game too much. But for clarity there, James, that Man City goal made someone win £10,000, yeah?
Yeah, they had an acca and they were the last leg because it was, what was it, late in the afternoon, the kickoff?
Yeah, it was a late goal, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the last one. So they were dancing. I was very, very upset.
Phew. Okay, so we talked about Mullin though. What's it like when you know on your rugby team you've got a weapon? Like if you give a ball to Shane Williams, you know he'd probably score. Like what does that do to you as a team?
It's goal. It's a little bit harder in rugby because sometimes there's not that much space out there. Weather plays a massive factor in games. Well, it doesn't so much in football, does it? Because footballers like a little bit of wet on the surface. The ball slides a little bit more. But when you've got like a massive player in your team, it's huge. Like we had a game plan in 2008 was basically give the ball to Shane, and he ended up being IRB Player of the Year. He was incredible. So it is huge. You'd rather have a massive unit though, wouldn't you? You'd rather have like a massive number 8 or something like that.
Like a Lomu.
Well, the only thing is though, you can always
or DuPont.
Teams can mark. You look at South Africa against Lomu in the World Cup. He couldn't run, could he? Teams put 4 guys on him, so it's a bit different with rugby. But one thing you do notice is speed kills. And we've got a freaking in Zam, and it's nice knowing that if you can create a little bit of space, that he's gone and no one's going to catch him. So that is pretty exciting. It's just trying to create that space for them.
DuPont in your team though, everyone knows how good he is and what he can do. But he just dominates everything. He's the best player in the world.
Oh, the World Cup was just everyone whose box office, wasn't he? Let's be honest. Let's go back to Newport County. Obviously, they won a 93rd minute winner, James, on the weekend, but they've got one eye on an FA Cup replay with Eastleigh. That's Tuesday night. What odds? Because we're all looking forward, hopefully, for Newport winning and then Newport Manchester United. So from your point of view, are Newport going to do the job against Eastleigh?
They should do, shouldn't they? I think they're about 6-4 to do it, but they'd be a better team. You'd hope so, but you'd think they'd do it. And then if they did play Man City, they're going to have obviously a tough task. I think they'd be about 14-1 to beat Man City up at Old Trafford. But,
yeah, Manchester United it is they're playing in that one.
Manchester United. Sorry,
no, but okay.
But, stranger things have happened.
So what are the odds on that again? Tell me that once more.
So Newport is 6-4 to beat Eastleigh in the week, and then if they did get to Man United, they'd be about 14-1.
Okay, cool. I fancy that. I fancy that to happen. I really do. I think they're going to have some exciting times here on the podcast, talk about Newport County in the next week or so. Let's turn our attention, James, to this weekend then. Swansea versus Southampton, a 12:30 kickoff. It's that early game. Plymouth versus Cardiff, a repeat of Boxing Day, which is a 2-2 draw. And then the big one, Newport versus Wrexham, which will be very tasty to say the least. What odds are you going to give us on all three of them?
Okay, so we've got the Swans are about 7-2 to beat Southampton. Again, I think that's a tough task. We were talking about those kind of Premiership clubs coming down. Leeds, Cardiff probably showed that there's a bit of a gap there, but they're 7-2 to beat Southampton. Cardiff just over 2-1 beat Plymouth. That's doable away from home, I think.
Yeah.
Have to improve on last week, but I think that's doable. And then if for the Welsh El Clasico, as we're calling it, Newport and Wrexham are 10-11, Newport are 3-1, and the draw is 11-4.
Okay. Tasty.
James, if Newport beat Eastleigh, does that change the odds for you guys? Do you think Newport may have an eye more to the big FA Cup?
Not really.
No?
They're going to be.
Okay.
Listen, it's a tough task, and it's 14-1. Roughly from to beat Man United. But
or are you asking to change?
I'm saying against Wrexham. Do they take their? Look, it's going to be a massive game against Wrexham, but I think all the players will be looking surely to the big one a couple of days later. Would that change what you guys
not
doing?
so much, not unless there's significant injuries. Like we said last week about injuries kind of thing, and football you don't have so much team changes. But we had put up odds for Carmarthen Quins against Pontypool last week at the Thursday game, and a load of the Carmarthen Quins players were injured. The Scarlets Academy players came through, and it massively changed the game. We had a bit of a kick in on that actually. So we had Pontypool as 8 points favourite, but with the Scarlets Academy players coming through, it just changes the whole dynamic and the whole odds. But it doesn't happen so much in football. It's rugby where you get the team news that affects things.
Speaking of rugby then, I know you've got Six Nations odds available as well. So are we looking for Wales to do a mighty big task? It's an uphill battle if they're going to do it, but to win the Six Nations?
We are going 25-1 Wales. So as normal, always top price on all the Welsh teams. So 25-1 Wales. If you fancy losing a tenner, I'll happily take it. You can bet 25-1.
I'll give you the tenner for that.
Who have you got as favourites?
Thank you. Spend it well.
Who are your early favourites, James, so far?
France 13-10, Ireland 13-8. So it's it looks like between them. In fact, Scotland are a lot shorter than Wales. So we're gonna do a boost. We're gonna do Wales or Scotland. Who's going to finish above? You can have 6-4 Wales to finish above Scotland in the tournament.
Good one.
What about odds on Scotland-Wales the first game?
I don't know what the odds are on the first game yet. I'll have to check that out.
You did say that
one,
depends on selection as well for you guys, doesn't it? So that'll be near the time to check that out with you.
Yeah, team comes up tomorrow, right?
The squads
tomorrow, yeah, definitely. It's quickly on the Lions, because we've got odds for captain of the Lions going as well. So who are you fancying for that?
So we got Shanks. I want to know your opinion on this. You can set our market for us. We got James Ryan's even at the moment. We got Maro Itoje 4-1, Jack Morgan 5-1, Jamie Ritchie 10, Owen Farrell 16-1. Surely you can't choose his boy to be captain. And Peter O'Mahony 20-1. It would be your pick, Shanks.
Oh, I don't know.
I'd go Itoje myself personally, but
doesn't captain England much though. But
it all depends, as you were saying earlier, Gar, who's in form at that time, who's fit. It's so much can change, but it's a bit of fun to have a bet now if you fancy it with
the captaincy. You look at Ireland. Obviously, they're going to get a new captain, the Six Nations. So we're all waiting to see who that is. But I know James Ryan struggled a little bit recently with the captaincy. He's been challenged a fair bit with the refs. So will they stay away from him? Will they look at, I think, Tag Burns doing it for Munster? I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the Irish captaincy, and then suddenly
he's a favourite.
Tag's now a favourite to be the Lions captain. So that'll be an interesting one, I think, for Ireland, who they go with.
Yeah, that will be interesting. James, you mentioned earlier that DragonBet is different to other bookies, as you can bet on lower league and main sports with you guys as well. It's lovely to bring kind of local sport to the heart of the action on a weekend. So we're doing our DragonBet game of the week. And I think this one is in homage to Tom Shanklin this week.
It is. So did you grow up in Tenby, Shanks? Is that what I heard? Yeah, proper West Walian, tight as hell. That's what I've heard all the stories. So we're going to go with Fishguard against Tenby, which is they're actually two decent teams. They're in WRU Division 2 West. I think Fishguard are currently 4th in the league. Fishguard are 7th. Sorry, Tenby are currently 4th. Fishguard are 7th. And we're going to give a 14-point start for Fishguard there at home.
Shanks,
What do you think?
you're the expert on this.
Yeah, I haven't followed Tenby Rugby Club for a while, even though I got my little photo up, my little Tenby Swifts. It's a little card, a little photograph card up in the clubhouse with my shirt next to my dad's because we both played there.
Ah, that's nice. You got to back your boys, right?
Yeah. We'll go Tenby.
Okay, there we go.
Sorry?
Tenby we're going for.
Tenby.
Yeah.
Tenby minus 14. We'll put you down.
Okay.
Also, James has been very kind. We're going to do a charity bet every single week on the pod, okay? So they've given us a £5 bet each being me and one team versus you two, okay? So Shanks and Gareth, you're a team this week. We can go for any bet we want, but basically we want to see if I can beat you guys, basically. And by the end of the year, hopefully, if we have any winnings, that will go to charity. So I've gone for my £5 bet, James. I don't know if you know this, but I've gone for Newport Wrexham to be a draw and Swansea Southampton to be a draw. So I'm going big, basically, with my first bet.
Yeah.
Like really heavy. It's unlikely to happen, but what are you going to give me?
I will have to check on that. The 2 draws. I'll have to check. I think... Yeah, let me look at it. 14 to 1, it'd be roughly 11 to 4, 3 to 1. That'd be about 14 to 1.
14 to 1. Okay. So Gareth and Shanks, you have a think, okay? And what we'll do, we'll kind of let everyone know on Instagram what your charity bet of the week is.
Okay.
And you can see if you can beat me. But if you've got one on, you want to go for it now straight away, Gar, you can.
No, I'll confirm with my partner. He's on. He's got the app open now, so
Well, I'm going all in for the first one, for 2 draws, 2 Desmonds. That's kind of brave of me, I think. But there we go. James, thank you as ever. Thank you. Enjoy the weekend. Good luck with it. Hopefully you don't lose 10k to one person like you did this weekend.
Yeah, hopefully not. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, James.
Cheers, James. Good stuff. Shanks, thank you for your time today. Gareth, thank you for your time. Plans for the weekend?
Just quite one. Yeah, take it easy for me.
Take it easy. Shanks, yourself, you working?
Yeah, doing Racing Cardiff for TNT and then Dragons Sharks for Viaplay.
So did you get to go to Paris?
No.
I hate it when they do that to you guys.
I know. You've got to do it from studio in London in little... or I shouldn't probably say that. It ruins the aura. It ruins the surprise.
Yeah, he's going to Paris, everyone.
Ask me again, just in case.
Yeah, you going to Paris?
I hope so.
Yeah, okay. Good,
Hope so.
No, it's a pleasure to have you on. And Gareth, thank you as always. Thanks to you for listening as well, wherever you are. Remember, you can follow us on Instagram at Sportin Wales. Pick up the magazine in various sport clubs, gyms, and lots of other places right across Wales and, of course, online. Or subscribe at sportin.wales to have it in your inbox. Tell your friends about us, share the love, and we'll catch you next week. Wherever you go, wherever you are, enjoy your Sportin Wales week.
Sportin Wales podcast.
Supported by DragonBet.
Your go-to for Welsh sports news and views.